It's been a crazy few weeks, a crazy few months in the world and in the stock market. But I wanted to make a video just talking about a lot of what I've learned throughout history. And I think that a lot of that is applicable right now. So if by the end of this video, maybe you learned something, share it, please. Tag someone who needs to see it. Tag a celebrity, tag an influencer, tag news media. I think that we need to talk a lot about these issues more to hopefully, get through a lot of this with less violence, less deaths. It's just really kind of sad what's going on with a lot of issues. But let me just first talk about the stock market. That's what most people ask me about. Yes, I made about $300,000 last month in June, one of my best months in years. Yes, I'm up over $500,000 on the year in 2020 so far. And yes, I'm donating every single penny to charity. The $300,000 is going to Yemen. There's a huge humanitarian crisis going on there. Roughly one child is dying every 10 minutes due to lack of food, lack of water, lack of basic medicine. So I'm proud to donate $300,000 to help those kids. Thank you to everybody who joined in on the Gala fundraiser. We've now raised over $400,000. So my $300,000 plus everyone else's $400,000, $700,000 plus going to Yemen. We really appreciate every single donation. My co-founder, Matt Abad, and I really have grown Gala to this social community where it's not just about donating money, it's about spreading awareness. And that's why I want you to share this video. I'm also wearing this new Gala charity merch. This is to end racism. You can go to the bio on Gala and check out all the charity merch. It's 30, 40, 50% off sale. The money gets donated to building more schools, helping more animals, and fighting important causes like the need to end racism. Let me talk about, just progress for a second, because it's cool to say, look, I made 300 grand last month, 500 grand on the year, but I progressed from being just a trader to wanting to donate all of the money to charity because I have, frankly, enough money myself. I'm very honored to have built a solid teaching business, and I'm, proud to make money from teaching. So I donate all the trading profits because I show my screen. I trade with a small account. I like showing other people how it's done. I'm proud of my profits, but I'm prouder that my top student, Tim Grattani, made $1 million last month. On Wednesday, he made over $270,000 in one day on a classic pattern outlined in one of my DVDs and blogs from a decade ago, because history repeats and patterns repeat. And by the way, if you want to get in on 2, 3, or even 4 live webinars per week from me and my top students, click the link in my bio. But Tim Grattani made $270,000 in one day. At night, how did he celebrate? He gave a live webinar to people asking questions like, how did you just make over $250,000 in one day? That is dedication. And for me, that's my own personal progress where I've realized it's not just about money. And Tim Grattani has realized this too. It's about helping others learn. So we love teaching. And we're not that smart. We're not that great at math, but we recognize lessons from history. The way that he made $270,000 in a day, by the way, I made like $30,000. So I was betting smaller. I didn't trade it great. It was more of his pattern than mine. We have different kinds of patterns. But we both learned because that pattern has worked again and again and again. Not every time, nothing's an exact science, but it works more times than not. And as I look through history, you see definitive progress with America and the world. And it's not a straight line like people want. Like Tim Grattani has turned 1,500 into over 12 million. It's not like straight line, right? He made nothing his first 9 months, but now he's making $1 million in a month after he's learned a lot. You have to put in a lot of hard work in learning and studying at first, and then you reap the rewards later on. And I think that's very similar with America. Even though America was discovered in 1492, it was a progress. It was a progression, right? Like Christopher Columbus didn't discover it. Like the Native Americans were there. Unfortunately for the Native Americans, they weren't immune to a lot of the diseases that the Europeans brought. And by all estimates, and I encourage you to look this up yourself, it's fascinating what you can find through looking at history. But roughly 90% of Native Americans were wiped out through disease like smallpox, measles. Their immune systems couldn't handle it. And then also the Europeans did like this massive land grab. So I feel for, the Native Americans. Then in 1776, what we're celebrating, American independence from Great Britain. Well, actually, the Declaration wasn't even signed until August. So July 4th, it's a great day. I love America. I think that, we are a great country, but I think that we can also be better. It wasn't signed until what? I think August 2nd. And then also in the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal. First of all, what about about women. Second of all, slavery wasn't abolished until the Emancipation Proclamation in 1862 by President Abraham Lincoln. And even then, it took 2.5 years to get out to all the colonies. We don't have real-time information like we do now back then. So it wasn't until June 19th, 1865, which is Juneteenth, which is a great holiday in celebration for African Americans. It was the last slave freed in Texas, although we still have racism today. We have a lot of police brutality. We have a lot of issues, not just even with Native Americans or African Americans, but, Asian Americans, so many different races. Myself, I'm Jewish, right? Like I face a lot of anger sometimes too with people who hate Jews. And I think that we really have to understand the plight of different races and what we've gone through over the years. It's not just that, we're all different. Like, we have to respect each other. I do believe all people are equal. I do believe all living creatures should be respected. Like, props to the Gala community. We posted the other day just in Nagaland in India, where dogs were getting bought and sold for dog meat. We did a post and we said, hey, everybody email the Secretary General of Nagaland, India. And I've never been to Nagaland, India, but when I see this and, I'm talking with the different charities involved there, we put out a call. Over 100,000 emails were sent to this chief secretary. Within a week, they, banned dog meat trading. Fantastic little win, just showing the power of, working together and spreading awareness. And that's, again, why I want you to share this. I haven't even gotten to the most important stuff, which I think is most urgent right now. Like, obviously, I want, racial injustice to end. Yes, I do believe that we should listen more to, the plight of Native Americans. But also, right now, just with the virus, I wish people would learn from the past. Because right now, we have the coronavirus, which, like I said, I posted about in January when there were 56 deaths, just 56 deaths. And now there's over 500,000 deaths. People say they want exact numbers. FYI, you're not going to get exact numbers ever during the pandemic, and maybe not even afterwards. If you look at past pandemics, a lot of the deaths are estimated. So some people say that the numbers are inflated. Some people say the numbers are deflated. I don't know. I look at trends. And when I saw it happening in January, breaking out, I was worried. I always, err on the side of caution. That's how I trade. That's how I teach. I always expect the worst. And, maybe that makes me a little too overprotective. But I think it's good to be overprotective. If you look at what viruses have done in the past, a lot of the Native Americans were wiped out by measles and smallpox. But I don't know if you realize this, George Washington, one of his greatest successes wasn't just on the battlefield. He actually lost more than he won on the battlefield. He wasn't the greatest. He did win some important battles, which brought the French in to help, which actually secured our victory. But he inoculated his troops from smallpox when there was a whole breakout going on. And I wish that people took this virus in inoculations. I mean, we have no inoculation. There's no cure right now. But I wish people took the virus more seriously. We don't have to be in this position. If you look at Europe, if you look at Asia, their numbers are way down because they took it seriously from the start. A lot of Americans were protesting. A lot of Americans think it's a conspiracy. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm not a doctor, but I look at trends, and it is clearly breaking out, and it is clearly wreaking havoc all across America. I see some people having parties saying like, oh, let's get the Rona. Let's have a Rona party. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Let's learn from the past. Let's just remember 1918, okay? There was a huge pandemic which killed an estimated 50 million people out of 500 million people estimated to get it, roughly a third of the world at the time. So if 50 million people died, that's very scary. Some people say, well, now it's, a century later, we have better medicine. That's true. But we didn't learn the lessons from the past, because in 1918, part of the reason why 50 million people died, it wasn't just the elderly. It wasn't just people with pre-existing conditions. There was one age group that got hit especially hard. They were aged 28. Why? Why would a healthy 28-year-old die from the flu, basically? Because, and this is just speculated, it's not an exact science, but it's speculated that there was also a Russian flu of 1889 and 1890. And all of those infants, guess what? They were 28 years old in 1918. And it's speculated that their immune systems could not handle the second virus, and that is why they died. So let me just throw this out here. I don't know what's going to happen with this virus. I want to save or try to save as many people's lives as possible. I don't think you should get it, because even if you're okay getting it right now, maybe you survive, which, the vast majority of young people will survive. Worry about what happens if there's another virus, another outbreak, another epidemic or pandemic. Your immune system might be compromised, no different than the immune systems of 28-year-olds in 1918 from the Russian flu of 1889 or 1890. It's crazy. No one's talking about this. All of this is public information. But people don't want to look at that. People just say, oh, I'll get it. I'll probably be fine. There's like a 99% chance. What if you're setting yourself up to die or get seriously sick or injured or, I don't know the repercussions, but in 10, 20, 30 years when there's another outbreak? And given how we treat animals, given that coronavirus likely came from bats or pangolins, and if you look at the 1890 outbreak, it was from cows, like the way that we treat animals, it's abhorrent. And that is leading to more and more outbreaks, more and more viruses, more and more zoonotic diseases, which account for, 75%, some people say, of new diseases. So when there's a new outbreak, it's not even a question of if, whether it's 10, 20, 30 years. If you got coronavirus right now, you might be more susceptible in the future. And you're laying the groundwork for your own demise. And I hate thinking about that. I wish that more people knew about this. This has happened in the past. History repeats. I could just be overprotective. Maybe, this will really spur a lot of people to invest in medicine. Maybe spreading awareness about a lot of animal cruelty will help us treat animals better to reduce the risks of more zoonotic diseases breaking out in the future. But all I can do is try to warn and try to learn from the past. The way that I made money in the market this month, last year, the past 20 plus years, I've been trading for 20 years now, is just studying history and recognizing that patterns repeat. So please stay safe. Start learning from history, start appreciating the plight of whether, it's the Native Americans or African Americans or myself, like, the Jews. I'm Jewish and I get a lot of anti-Semitism. And a lot of people say, oh, Hitler was so evil, it was just the Germans. I don't know if you realize this, Hitler didn't even come up with the whole final solution quote. That was from 1910. Duncan Campbell Scott. He was a Canadian poet, and he was in charge of dealing with Native Americans with Canada. He came up with the whole final solution thing in 1910, nearly 30 years before Hitler did. So again, history is fascinating. I'm not trying to offend everybody. I feel for the plight of so many different races and cultures. But I think that we can do better. And I think that more people should study. If we're locked up, if we're quarantined, study the past. It'll be amazing what you can learn. And please stay safe. Please share this video if you learned one or two interesting facts. Share it if you hate me, share it if you love it. But just let's get the information out there. Let's keep the conversation going.